Hello, I'm Ellen Bintz, coming today from Wheaton, Illinois, in the USA. Welcome to Impact, a podcast about how we can each bring about real change in the world and getting practical in making that happen.
And hello, I'm Clive Johnson, coming today from Leigh-on-Sea in the UK. A special welcome if you're listening for the first time, and a big thank you to our new subscribers. Each week, we look at one aspect of how we can connect our hearts to offer healing for others with our collective intention, prayers, and meditation, and go behind the headlines of a critical happening in our world that needs our attention right now.
In today's episode, we take one of these regular deep dives to more fully understand and tune in with something many of us may know only a little about, and I think that's true with today's topic.
Definitely.
And see where we might hone in with our prayers and intentions. And as we record, it's February 26th, 2025.
Glorious 26th.
Yes. Yes.
Special day.
Yes, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday to Ellen.
Thank you.
Yep. So, groundedness is this quarter's theme for global healing response, as regular listeners will know. We spoke about approaches for finding our spiritual ground and the importance of establishing a firm foundation for being activists and authentic in a recent episode. This included a reminder of the vital connection we have with the physical ground and our Mother Earth. And it's to one such very earthy matter that we turn our attention this week. Peatlands hold twice as much carbon as all the world's forests combined. Extraordinary statistic. Yet they are largely unprotected. Threats to these vital ecosystems may have dramatic impacts on our ability to offset the effects of climate change, as well as bring harm to the planet's biodiversity. In this episode, we focus attention on this pressing issue that much of the world, including ourselves, may know little about. As always, we look for where our intentions and prayers might be focused, and take time later in the podcast to invite you to join us in holding intention. Peatlands cover approximately 3% of the landmass of our planet and contain up to 1/3 of the world's soil-based carbon. They occur in different parts of the world, but extensive areas are especially found in Russia, Canada, and Alaska, and also large areas of Indonesia and in parts of the Amazon basin. When I first looked at the map, I thought, oh, this is all way up in the sort of tundra, the northern Arctic regions, but no, this is tropical as well. It's quite spread around where you find them.
And I guess I was the opposite. I always thought it was tropical.
Yeah, exactly. Swamplands. Yeah.
Because peatland is a type of wetland ecosystem characterized by its unique soil composition known as peat. This forms over thousands of years through the accumulation of partially decomposed organic plant material and other matter in waterlogged conditions. Peatland soils are often highly acidic and usually reach to 30 centimeters or more in depth. They're usually classified into two main types: bogs, and these are raised areas that receive water solely from precipitation, resulting in acidic conditions that are low in nutrients, and fens, which are located on slopes, flats, or depressions and receive water from surrounding mineral soil or groundwater, leading to varying levels of acidity and nutrients.
And there are different names for a number of different types of peatlands. So swamps, quagmires fall among these as well. And sometimes these are interchangeable, or in different parts of the world, there'll be different names. Isn't it the case that when we start researching or talking about something, we actually see it around us? I was just yesterday sitting in my car at a traffic light outside a supermarket, and I saw a huge sign, which perhaps wouldn't normally notice. What was it? Non-peat compost for sale here.
Non-peat.
So I'm not being a gardener. I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyway, that's what they were promoting. So why are peatlands important for the Earth's well-being? Peatlands are crucial for the well-being of our planet due to the vital role they play in climate regulation, as we mentioned, but also in biodiversity conservation and water management. As the largest terrestrial store of carbon, as we said, holding more than double the amount of carbon than all forests combined. Peatlands are essential for mitigating climate change since they sequester vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which in turn reduces greenhouse gas concentrations and so slows global warming. As a reminder, greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide absorb infrared radiation emitted by the Earth's surface and then re-emit this into all directions, including back towards the Earth's surface, effectively trapping heat within the atmosphere. And it's this trapped heat which is crucial for maintaining the Earth's temperature. But, as we know, it becomes problematic when the gases accumulate excessively, leading to an increase in average temperatures across the world and consequent effects on climate dynamics, as well as melting. So ice melting, leading to rising sea levels, melting permafrost, leading to a release of more methane, this very toxic gas, into the atmosphere.
Peatlands also store 10% of the world's fresh water and help regulate water flow. Who knew?
Mm.
They reduce the risk of flooding by slowing water flow from uplands and providing floodplain storage in lowlands. Additionally, they filter sediments, pollutants, and nutrients, ensuring clean drinking water supplies for humans and other forms of life. They also help minimize the risk of drought and water wildfires. If this wasn't enough, peatlands also play a vital role in maintaining biodiversity, as we said before. They support unique flora and fauna that have adapted to their specific conditions, providing crucial habitats for rare and threatened species. Despite their importance, peatlands face threats from drainage, conversion for agriculture, and other human activities. The effective conservation of peatlands is therefore crucial, yet this is often not being given committed attention by governments and others that have influence on conservation priorities.
So what is happening to the health of peatlands and what are the implications? The world's peatlands are facing significant threats. According to one recent study published in Conservation Letters, only 17% are currently protected. Globally, over a quarter of peatlands have been destroyed in recent decades due to various human activities and land use practices, and about 15% of the world's peatlands have been drained. The implications are striking. When drained or burned, peatlands transform from carbon sinks to carbon sources, releasing what has often been centuries of stored carbon into the atmosphere, and therefore exacerbating the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide emissions from drained and burned peatlands now represent 10% of the world's fossil fuel emissions, while damaged peatlands are now responsible for almost 5% of human-originated carbon dioxide emissions. So, as we said right at the front, this is something that, well, certainly I knew very, very little about.
Yes.
Stunning importance. We hear a lot about protecting the forest, don't we, the rainforests, but much less about peatlands.
Now, it's like what you just said, where they could be helpful, they're being harmful if they're not protected. So not only are we not getting the help, but we are getting a negative effect from what we're doing.
Yes, exactly.
Well, peatland degradation has had marked implications for the biodiversity of many ecosystems too. For example, on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, peatland loss has negatively impacted Atlantic salmon habitats, a species recently listed as endangered on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List. There are still more implications for humans. For example, peatland fires in Southeast Asia have contributed to dangerous levels of particulate matter harmful to human health. One recent study suggests that protecting peatlands in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore could prevent about 24,000 deaths per year across these three countries. While in central Kalimantan in Indonesia, Peatland fires led to an increase in the average particulate matter concentration in the air to more than twice the World Health Organization recommended amount. This equates to an estimated 648 premature mortality cases per year due to lung cancer, chronic respiratory, and cardiovascular conditions. That's sobering.
It is. It is indeed, isn't it? Yeah. So, what might be done to reverse the harm to peatlands, and what is being done? Several key restoration techniques and conservation methodologies can be implemented to help reverse the harm being done to peatlands worldwide. Firstly, a strategy of re-wetting the peatlands and managing the hydrology of the ecosystems of which they form a part. Approaches here include blocking drains using peat dams, plastic piling or wooden damming to raise water tables, installing wave dams to control water flow, and reprofiling drains to restore the natural hydrology. I think I'd need a few diagrams to understand all of that, but I'm sure if you're into hydrology, that makes a lot of sense. Restoring vegetation, I think we probably instinctively know this one, is also important, including mulching and seeding to stabilize and revegetate bare peat areas, using turfing techniques to protect and encourage plant growth, and reintroducing sphagnum moss where this has been depleted, this being a very key species for peat formation, which I didn't know, and for carbon sequestration. Appropriate forestry management may also assist in the restoration of peatlands by blocking furrows left by forestry operations and ground smoothing to level out plough ridges and furrows, among other approaches. Gullies and peat banks that are reprofiled may help stabilize areas that have been subject to erosion, while removing invasive scrub vegetation and implementing appropriate grazing regimes. All of these can help maintain open peatland habitats. Efforts might also be taken to manage the quality and quantity of water in these habitats, and so help to reduce the input of pollutants into the water.
Positive conservation efforts are underway, and these include the Peatland Action Program in Scotland, which has already helped restore over 25,000 hectares of peatlands and which has set a target of 250,000 hectares by 2030. And the work of the Global Peatland Initiative, led by UN Environment, which aims to bring countries and partners together to save peatlands and prevent carbon dioxide release. This includes its setting up of a global peatlands assessment to improve understanding of peatlands and guide restoration actions. Can you tell me what the size of a hectare is compared to an acre?
I get this wrong. Is it 2.2 hectares to an acre, or is it the other way
Got it.
around?
Okay.
I've probably got that wrong.
I didn't know. Such efforts are gaining momentum. Many of the restoration and conservation approaches we mentioned are being adopted in some countries and are bearing fruit. For example, the Tertinggan Peatland Restoration and Conservation Project in Indonesia is projecting and restoring 149,800 hectares of peatland with an aim of reducing around 10 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year. Meanwhile, development and testing of new restoration methods is ongoing, especially focusing on addressing challenges in highly degraded sites. Efforts are also being made to involve local communities in restoration projects, recognizing their importance for long-term sustainability. However, such initiatives remain limited and as yet are insufficient to address the major threat of peatland loss and degradation that the world is facing.
So some real-time Googling going on when Ellen was talking. 1 hectare is 2.47, not 2.47 acres.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
So where might we hone in with our intentions and prayers? So we're going to take some time now, and we'll put a bookmark for this part of the podcast if you happen to be driving or not feel you're in a place at the moment where you might want to join us for holding intention together. So let's take a moment just to allow ourselves to become really present and connected, focused on taking in what we've just learned, at least some of it, taking in the importance of peatlands for the health of the earth, the impacts on hydrology, on water supply, on drought, on biodiversity, and, of course, on greenhouse gas emissions and the climatic effects that we know so well. Allowing yourself to become centered, connected. And we'll offer some suggestions where you may want to focus attention, holding these specific intentions. And amongst the topics that we have reflected on here, we suggest holding that there will be heightened awareness around the vital need to protect the health of the world's peatlands and why it is a significant threat among all governments, agencies, regulators and others who have influence or control over local, regional or national environmental policies and funding.
We might pray and hold intention for a will among environmental and other agencies, departments, and organizations with interests in areas such as farming, forestry, climate change mitigation, and hydrology to plan and implement coordinated policies that take account of whole ecosystem needs.
We will for wisdom for those responsible for implementing protection and restoration efforts to know where to prioritize their resources and attention. May this include wisdom to identify and manage designated protected peatland areas and implement effective policies to incentivize peatland restoration.
We ask that those involved in researching and developing approaches to peatland management and conservation will be guided in their work, receiving insight and prompting for where their actions might be most effectively directed.
And we will that the far-reaching implications of peatland protection for climate change, human health, and biodiversity become known to the public at large and motivate a desire for action to address this challenge. We will that governments will commit funding for public education campaigns and that actions individuals might take to play their part in the conservation effort will become widely known.
And this week, as we consider the vital role played by peatlands in mitigating greenhouse emissions, maintaining biodiversity, and healthy natural drainage, we suggest holding as our main intention. We will that those who have influence among all member states of the United Nations will be moved to respond assertively, effectively, and immediately to the call of UN Environment for urgent, coordinated action to protect and conserve peatlands worldwide. Please join us in holding this.
That about wraps it up for this episode. Remember, you can connect with us in the Facebook group and for live intention holding in my daily Insight Timer offerings and with Ellen in the Labyrinth Activist Network's Zoom calls. Details of how to hook up with these are in our show notes. Look out too for our next special topic episode, which we'll be releasing in the next few days. Thank you for listening and for sharing with us in holding intentions. We look forward to connecting again next time. And in the meantime, thank you, go well, stay safe.
And remember, we're more powerful together.
Impact is presented by Ellen Binns and Clive Johnson and produced by Impact Productions. Our theme music is by Chris Collins and our logo artwork is by Auto Classic. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible or your favorite podcast provider. We're a non-commercial podcast dedicated to people of any faith tradition or none who yearn for healing in our troubled world. Please pass on the word so others may join us in making an impact. Thank you for listening.